Sure y'all gonna hate me for saying this. I gotta keep it honest with y'all. So, Richard Anthony Wolff, known as Dick Wolf, was born December 20th, 1946, in New York City to George Wolf and Mary Wolf. George worked as advertising, and Mary was a homemaker. Wolf grew up in Manhattan during the 1950s and 1960s, surrounded by a fast pace of New York City life. But did you know, crazy fact? Growing up, everyone called him Richard by his name, except his parents. They always called him Dick. For what reason, I don't know. When he was when he went off to college, everybody started calling him Dick, besides his parents, and they started calling him Richard. That's crazy. Wolf's childhood was great, if you ask me, because his parents would take him to the peanut gallery where he appeared as a child in the studio audience when he was a kid. I'm gonna put a disclaimer here because I'm not sure if this is actually him when he was a kid, but something is pulling my attention to this part of the picture, so I'm gonna just leave this here. But once again, it's a disclaimer. Wolf's childhood also had a strict side. He attended St. David's private school through his elementary and middle school years from 1952 to 1960. During those years, he became interested in crime and courtroom stories. He loved watching police and legal drama such as Naked City, NYPD, and The Defenders. These shows later inspired the realistic crime storytelling that made him as famous as today. But fun fact, one of the Wolf's favorite movie scenes from Niagara when Rose Loomis, aka Mel Monroe, walks lounge and poses around the roaring waterfalls in a glamorous fashion. That scene left a lasting impression on him, but he was always into true crime. During Wolf's teenage years, Wolf attended the gunnery in Washington, Connecticut, while the exact reason of his enrollment was never publicly discussed. The school reputation for academics, excellent, and college preparation likely played a role. His time there was part of an educational journey that eventually led him to Phillips Academy and later University of Pennsylvania. Before becoming a television creator, Wolf worked in advertising following his father's footsteps. He wrote successful commercials before moving into screenwriting. While building his career, Wolf met Susan Granton, his first wife in New York City during the early 1970s. They married on September 5th, 1970. Although they did not have children, they remained married for 13 years before divorce in 1983. Wolf turned around and married Christine Marburg the same year in 1983. They had three children: Olivia Wolf, who is a very private person; Elliot Wolf, who became a television producer, writer, and media executive; and Serena Wolf. Unlike her brother and father, Serena has become known as food writer, recipe developer, and lifestyle content creator. She contributed recipes and food content to various publication and online platforms. But unfortunately, Wolf and Christine's marriage lasted 22 years until their divorce in 2005. Their divorce involved in financial dispute and court order. After 2024, Wolf Entertainment had produced more than 40 television series and over 2,500 episodes. Wolf Network was approximately 1.2 billion in 2024. So he didn't really have money on the divorce. So she thought she was going to get money from him pretty much on the 2005 divorce, making him one of the few television billionaires. Wolf donated hundreds to platforms or networks, to Metropolitan Museum of Arts, and funded museum galleries that bear his name. After college, Wolf sharpened his writing skills in advertising. One of his first shows he worked on was Massacred, a short-lived, adventurous Spanish drama. The story followed Olivia Lawrence, aka Tilly, a wealthy Long Island girl who recently lost her mother against the warnings of her alcoholic stepfather. She falls for a charismatic yacht racing captain named Tim Wallen, aka Lowe. As their romance unfolds, a tangled web of lies, manipulation, and murder emerge. However, the show that first brought attention to Wolf's great talent was Hill Street Blues. He joined the writing staff during the 1980s. He claimed his earnings for his work. Unlike traditional cops versus robbers, television shows Hill Street Blues focus heavily on officers' personal lives, moral dilemmas, and emotional exhaustion. The series ran from January 15, 1981 to May 12, 1987. Wolf then became the founder of Wolf Entertainment in 1988, later using it as the production company behind Law and Order when the series premiered in 1990. Miami Vice, the original from 1984 to 1989, aired on NBC. Miami Vice became famous for its groundbreaking visual style, designer fashion, and synth-pop soundtrack. Beneath the glamorous look, the show explored the harsh realities of the drug war. Wolf joined Miami Vice as a writer and producer during season 3, bringing a grittier, rapid, the headline style of storytelling. He helped steer the show towards darker, more narrative driven episodes, laying the foundation for his later creation of Law and Order. Wolf's biggest breakthrough came in 1990 when he created Law and Order, which premiered on NBC September 13, 1990. The show unique format showing both sides, police investigation and courtroom prosecution, set it apart from other crime dramas. Wolf said he wanted a series that focused on criminal justice process rather than the personal lives of the characters. A major inspiration was the 1986 Perfect Murder case involving Robert Chambers, which fascinated Wolf because different groups viewed the same crime case in dramatically different ways. Produced by Wolf during the 2000-2001 television season, Arrest and Trial was his first venture into reality-based crime television. The series divided cases into two parts: offense investigation and the punishment trial, making it real cousins with Law and Order. As much as I can't stand Law and Order, y'all gonna hate me for saying that, but he did full of success. Like, he did a big one on that one, and I'm a big fan of Chicago Fire, PD, the rest of them, but I'm not a fan of. And this is when Detective Olivia Benson became star of the show, first appeared on Law and Order in the debut episode of Law and Order spinoff series Special Victims Unit Payback, which aired on September 20th, 1999. After success of Law and Order franchise, Wolf wanted to create drama centered on first responder, which led to Chicago Fire, which premiered on October 10, 2012. Instead of focusing on police officers and lawyers, the show follows firefighters, rescue squad, and paramedics. Did y'all ever know that Firehouse 51, the fictional Firehouse 51, is one of television's most recognizable firehouses in Chicago? Wolf later expanded the franchise with Chicago PD, which premiered on January 8, 2014. The series follows officers and detectives of the fictional 21st District Intelligence Unit of the Chicago Police Department. It focused on major crimes, including murder, drugs, trafficking, kidnappings, robberies, and gang activities. So he made a franchise with Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, Chicago Meds. Fun facts, the show motto is often summarized by the intelligence unit mission: solving Chicago's most serious crime, no matter how difficult the case is. Wolf then expanded again with Chicago Meds, which premiered on November 17, 2015. Medical advisors help ensure that producers in emergency room situations are portrayed as realistically as possible. Actors often receive training in medical terminology in the hospital procedures. Popular, but did you know the popular characters most known? Dr. Will Hosted, Sharon Goodwin, Dr. Daniel Charles, Dr. Ethan, and many more great characters known. Fun fact, did you know although the hospital is fictional, many exterior scenes are filmed in Chicago? Chicago Med, Chicago PD, Chicago Fire frequently tell interconnected stories that continues from the one series to another. Together, these three shows from the core of Dick Wolf's success, one Chicago television universe. Wolf received numerous honors through his career. 1997, Outstanding Drama Series for Law and Order. 2007, Brandon Takeoff Award from NATPE. 2007, Star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. 2008, International Emmy Founder Award. 2013, inducted into Television's Academy Hall of Fame. As of 2026, Wolf continues to his run his empire, Wolf Entertainment, produce some of television's continuing most television's popular Law and Order, Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, FBI, etc. Wolf Entertainment continues developing new television shows. Although approaching 80 years old, Wolf remains a chairman and CEO of Wolf Entertainment. So more short of the story, Wolf not retired just yet. He's still living his good life, going strong, producing more television shows until this day. I hope you guys liked the video. I did everything I can. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment so you wouldn't lose no updates. Much love to you supporters.